It meant an awful lot to us to win the Croker Cup because we never meant it. We had stallions in Dublin all our lifetime and didn't win the Croker Cup even when it was judged as a class. It all started in 1936. My dad got True Boy from Whitemount, and he was the maternal grandsire of King of Diamonds. I was born in the 23rd of October 1930 and lived all my life here in Slyguff Stud. And I went to Kilgraney National School as a child and walked there and walked back again. And I did very little secondary school teaching, and I stayed at home all my lifetime and worked on the farm and became road ponies and went to pony club, and we always had ponies here and used to have a driving pony to drive us to various places during the war when there were no cars on the road. You'd have to have a pony and trap to go do the shopping in the local towns and to go to church and mass and stuff like that. And then there was a lot of hunting around as well in those days, which was great fun. Most farmers kept a mare or two in those days. It wasn't as traditional as it now. They're in groups. You either keep horses or you don't. You go into dairying or something like that. But in those days, everybody had working horses. There were no tractors. And then they used to hunt those animals as well too. There was loads of sport and hunting, and people kept a mare and she'd work on the farm during the weekend. She'd hunt then at the weekends or whenever, and then they would cover her and breed foals from her, and all the farmers had one or two mares in those days, but none of them had 8 or 10. He was a lovely big chestnut horse, standing 16'3", and real proud looking, and stood up well and looked all around him as much as say, look at me. We brought King of Diamonds. He jumped in Gorn Gymkhana one year, and he was brought into a public house in Gorn in the yard, unloaded in the yard, covered a mare that evening, and she went home to wherever she came from, and he came home to our house. So he covered the mare on the way home.
That was Royal Line.
Royal Line.
Yeah. Then King of Diamonds wasn't a true thoroughbred.
No,
or a true Irish draft, because his grandmother was a thoroughbred.
Yeah.
In those days, you were either
he
a thoroughbred
wasn't a pure Irish draft, Barbara, because there was no such thing as sport horses in those days. And in order to get him put on the register, we had to register him as an Irish draft.
Yeah.
Because there was no section for sports horses. There is a section for sports horses now on the department register, and it's a huge section. In those days, there was only Irish drafts and thoroughbreds, and he was not an Irish draft because he was out of a thoroughbred mare, but he was by an Irish draft stallion, so he was officially called a half-bred or a sports horse. We bought a thoroughbred mare called Biddens, you see, and she bred Ruby, and Ruby bred King of Diamonds.
By Errigal.
Yeah.
Errigal stood in
Paddy Buns
Park in Tullow. And how did Grandad get Ruby to Park?
He trotted he got into the pony and trapped, you see, and trotted her behind him.
Brought home King of Diamonds and Slyguff Stud.
That's right, another full brother as well. And he was sold to people in Mayo and Kerry. He stood in. Yeah. It was called Slyguff Stud, I think, was he? People had to travel in ponies and traps or ride a bicycle and bring the mare. There were no horse boxes or no mortars on the road or anything in those days. Sure, the horse show started years ago on the lawn of Leinster House, and eventually it was moved to Ballsbridge, where they bought the grounds in Ballsbridge and built it up to what it is today. It's on international standard now. They were given an exhibition of half-bred horses in those days. Do you remember? There was a 10 or 12 of them in it. They wrote to different stallion owners to see would they bring their horse to Dublin, and they would pay all the expenses. They sent a lorry for him and everything. and paid his expenses. And all the sports horses were only on exhibition that year in Dublin, and there was no class as such for them. And they were shown, I don't know for what reason, I don't know, they brought in that class. But no, we brought him to Dublin that year. He was only 4, actually. That's the first time we went. He jumped himself almost up as far as grade A. He jumped in Dublin in several Abbey Leaks and several places around the country. What?
In the spring show.
Yeah, in the spring show, yeah. And John Hutchinson rode him most of the time. And then we stood him at... Well, he was standing at stud as well as competing at that. There were no stallions on the show jumping circuit in those days. He was one of the first to do it.
He jumped against Dundrum in Abbey Leaks.
They went to the 3rd round and they were still equal, and they divided the competition. Then that was in Abbey Leaks show.
Max Howry would have bought lots and lots of young King of Diamonds, maybe 4-year-old horses just broken riding. And a lot would have went to Italy in the late 70s, early 80s.
Mancinelli was an Italian rider, used to come to Dublin every year and bring home a few top horses out of it.
Top novice horses.
A few of ours went as well too.
Yeah.
And Max Howry came 3 times a year and used to bring about 20 every year he'd bring back to Switzerland. In Switzerland they were only allowed to keep so many horses, and they would have to dispose of a couple if they wanted to buy a few new ones.
He only got popular... King only got popular, I suppose, from 15 onwards, and he covered until he was about 23. He probably would have covered, I think he was £250 at the time, which was big money. He probably would have covered 80 or 90 mares every year at that time, natural cover. He got a little bit difficult to handle in his latter days, and we had a pen for covering, which was worked. There was plenty of good horses conceived in the pen. Yes, he was here from the day he was born until the day he died. He died in 1990. He
came from England, and he stood in England for a couple of years. I've forgotten the man's name. About an hour from London. Johnny Hughes from Goresbridge and my dad flew over to England and bought him, and he came by boat to Waterford and was unloaded on the quay in Waterford, and we went down, borrowed a horse box and
went down. Off J-Bow, I'd say.
What?
Probably off J-Bow.
Probably, and picked him up in Waterford and brought him home. And we're really proud of him. He was only a young horse that time. He was by elopement. And Max Howry did say, for me, Highland Flight was the best thoroughbred horse ever stood in Ireland to get show jumpers and stuff like that. He raced all right and was placed once or twice or won something or other.
He was full brother to a good horse.
He was out. He was out of a mare called Anatolia. He was liver chestnut.
He'd lobbed ear, hadn't he?
And he lobbed ear, And but he never got a foal with a lobbed ear either.
Princess Anne had a Highland Flight mare, hadn't she?
Who?
Princess Anne.
Oh, she had, yeah.
Yeah, how's she called? Gretna Green.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, she would have had a 4-star mare. And sure, he bred a lot of show jumping. Highland Flight bred a lot of show jumping horses, and Max Howry had a lot of Highland Flight horses.
Gretna Green competed in Russia, actually, in Kiev. The Department of Agriculture used to buy stallions in those days and place them with stud farms around the country for free, and you just stood the horse. But we didn't want to go in on that scheme. We wanted to buy our own horse and own them ourselves and have our own say in what to do with them. Imperious. He was by Hugh Lupus. Somebody said he was for sale up in Concollins's. We were looking for a thoroughbred stallion to stand in the yard to cover half-bred mares and that.
He had raced up until he was 8 years of age.
And he won 7.5 races. The half race was because he shared... There was no photo finish in those days, you see. The judge gave a dead heat to two. He actually won in Gorn Park one day. That was our closest track. But he was a handful, really, to mind. And they were delighted to sell him. And he was easily managed here once you knew how to manage him. He was really strong, hardy horse.
Oh, we lived mares here 20 years of age and they were
never loaded, never left the place.
Never left the place. Yeah, sure, Imperius got a few good event horses and show jumpers as well. Typical one there, Vivaldi. He won the Hickstead Derby. Nelson Pessoa was 61 and he was 19. So that was a combined age of 80. It just shows you the longevity of a traditional Irish bred horse.
He was by Imperius. Master Imp was foaled here as well too.
Yeah, he was born here.
And stood here all his life. And he has progeny all over the world actually, especially in America.
Horse, we bought a thoroughbred mare through John Hutchison by Hullahull. I think she was wearing a Carnival Nightfall. Yeah, we pointed him for a few years. And then she had Master Imp. He was injured his eye as a 3-year-old. He never saw a fence. Definitely never saw a show jumping fence. Sure, he went to stud a 2-year-old. I think he covered 12 mares as a 2-year-old and got 11 in foal. And he covered mares until he was in the same stable all his life. And he covered mares until he was 23 years of age. I think in the London Olympics in 2012 there was 4 Master Imp horses in the top 10. Yeah, I think I'm correct.
That's true. Yeah.
He also, he would have got a few show jumping horses as well.
Mainly eventing.
And he would have got a lot of show horses. He had Zinzan won in the Supreme Hunter Champion in the Horse of the Year show, probably early 2000. He was out of a Highland King mare. So that's the versatility of Irish bred horses. Highland King was a sport horse we had. He was by
Highland
Flight out of a King of Diamonds mare. And actually, Highland King was our last foal, and another stallion we had called King's Master was her last foal. The sport horse, the half-bred horses we call them, they have stood here for many years. They were very, very lucky for us. Again, Highland King got a lot of... He was, what I'd call, a real good trade horse. You'd always sell a Highland King horse, sell him well as a riding horse. And they're always, what I would call, you'd always get a nice few pound for a Highland King horse, broken and riding. Again, he got Olympic horses.
Did?
Oh, there used to be stallion class in Blessington years ago, and they started it, and there'd be about maybe 20 stallions in it. Every year, I'd love to have won it, and I think we were second in it 4 times.
Second all the time.
Well, basically that time he would have been 11 or 12 years of age. We just throw the saddle on him, have him riding for a fortnight or 3 weeks, and go to Blessington to the stallion show jumping class. King Servant then, he was by
King of Diamonds out of a Highland Flight mare.
And the Highland Flight mare, she bred a horse that jumped in the Olympics in Los Angeles in 1984, and she would have bred a good few good horses by Imperius down through the years. King's Master was also another sport horse we had. He was by
Master Imp out of King of Diamonds mare.
Yeah, by Master Imp out of King of Diamonds mare. Again, a lovely horse. You'd get, like Highland King, you'd always sell a nice King's Master horse. I think Katie Joram had 6 of them 1 year showing. Should have won everywhere. There was a nice few horses in America eventing by him.
And then there's mares in the breeders.
So there's still nice traditional King's Master mares about.
Breeding now to other stallions. I'll tell you, towards the end of the covering season, people come with their mares and say, I'm sick AIing this mare the whole year and she's not in foal. I want her covered naturally.
And I pray like hell she goes in foal.
And that's a regular occurrence every year. And
it's a way of life.
It is,
we're at for.
And we're not going to change.
It's a way of life. We've wonderful friends and wonderful clients. An international show jumping rider said, and that we must never lose track of the true breeders, the proper breeders, versus the commercial breeders. He was talking about the foal that was bred on paper, and the guys that are breeding these foals probably are definitely not able to lunge their own horse, but yet they seem to be able to just breed on statistics. You can't breed on statistics. You do the best you can with what mare you have, and you take what you get, and at the end of the day you can breed the best horse in the world on paper. If he doesn't fall into the right hands, no joy.
That is true, yeah. And breeding is fluke at the back of everything else. You can breed a champion out of a fluky pedigree, and you can go with the best bred animal, the best bred mare to the best bred horse, and they can breed a dud.
I'd say go with your gut when you see a horse. When you see a nice horse, go with your gut.
Go with your feeling.
Yeah, go with your feelings. Another thing, I suppose, this linear scoring has been in fashion for the last 20 years.
That's desperate.
Mum is no teenager. I'm here since I left school, and I have yet to be asked for linear. I have linear scoring for definitely Gibeon. I think I have it for Pontilist. And nobody has asked me for their linear scoring page.
Linear scoring is?
My earliest years of going to the horse show is 1966 with King of Diamonds as a 4-year-old, and there's a lovely photograph in the kitchen of King of Diamonds with my brother. King of Diamonds was 4 and David was 4. So there's a lot of water gone under the bridge since then, and we always had something in Dublin. In 1980, my mother won the Irish Draft Mare Championship with a mare called Bagenalstown Beauty. The foal that she reared that year ended up being called Kingsway Diamond. Teddy Ryan bought him in the 1984 or so and brought him back to New Zealand, where he stood for many years. The same year in Dublin we had 2 5-year-olds, a mare and a horse called Slyguff Stud. The 2 of those were sold, and believe it or not, they jumped in the Olympics 4 years later. Slyguff Stud jumped off for the bronze medal. He ended up 4th, and the mare actually went as first reserve with Heidi Robbiani. Just can't think of her name at the minute. Then we would have had a ridden hunter champion in Dublin at a later stage, and recently we started to support the Croker Cup, because when I was little going to the horse show, it was an achievement to be big enough to look over the rails to watch the stallion class. So the system has been the same here all my life. We do all natural covering. We have 3 thoroughbred horses, Gibeon, Pontilist, Golden Master. We have a sports horse called Master's Choice, who is by King's Master. We keep a good few mares. They're all old breeding, and cover them with basically the thoroughbred stallions. We have a lifetime pedigree in the mares. Perhaps some of them are not profitable, but sure, you have to keep a little bit of sentiment around the place. We have clients coming here 40 years.
Surely.
Then we like to buy a new horse. When we lost Master Imp, I bought Nazar to keep the ship going until we found Pontilist. The current crew, eldest I suppose, still in the same stable he was born in. Golden Master is, I bred him. I always had a love of the stallion pre-fairy. I bought a mare, she was 22. It took me 3 years to get her in foal, and she duly produced Golden Master. He's by Master Imp out of a pre-fairy mare, which in my opinion is a beautiful old breeding. I had issues getting him approved, and probably inhibited his workload. Now they've decided at 23 they'd fully approve him, but I am not going to go down that road. Again, he got some lovely event horses, show horses, pleasure horses, and some brood mares. He doesn't know it, but he's semi-retired. and he'll live out his days here. Ponteliste, when we lost Master Imp, I wanted to replace him. Owen Banville told me, you'll come across a horse, don't panic. It took a couple of years, and Owen told me about Ponteliste in Noel Meads. George, as he's called, is by James Causeway, out of a Penture blue mare who was by Alidar. He ran 15 times, and he won 5 times and was placed 10 times. His progeny they're doing quite well, eventing more so and showing. Master's Choice is a young
horse now.
Young horse. He's by King's Master out of a thoroughbred mare, going back to Miner's Lamp and Arctic Slave. He's his S1 improved. I'd like to be busier with him. He basically covers a few thoroughbred mares, and I've had a few nice 3-year-olds that I sold, and they're gone abroad. It's just going to be tough to get him going, but I'll struggle on and persevere. We got Gibeon 2 years ago through Peter Nolan. Bought him sight unseen.
On Peter's recommendation. He landed here in the yard, and I put him straight into Master Imp's stable here at the back door, and he's here ever since. Gibeon is by Cape Cross, and his dam is Gravitation, who's by Galileo. He won 2 races and was placed 5 times, including 3rd at a listed race at Windsor. Gibeon has an excellent pedigree, being by Cape Cross, who is also the sire of Sea the Stars and the National Hunt sire Jetaway. His winning dam is by Galileo. I said to Mum last year, I'm thinking of bringing Gibeon to Dublin. She said she wouldn't be able to come. I said I'll leave him at home, so and went to Dublin with the view just to get him seen. And as I said previously, the Croker Cup class is the best shop window in the world. You're there at 1 o'clock and you have huge footfall. I brought him to get him seen. It never crossed my mind that he won. He was the winner, and I was delighted, naturally. It has helped him. He has covered a good few mares this year, and the fact that he won the Croker Cup has been a big influence to the amount of mares he covered. And the old tack box that we brought with him went to Dublin to the RDS when King of Diamonds was shown in Dublin.
In 1966 we brought the same tax box with all the stallions when we were going to
Dublin.
The Croker Club, the thoroughbred class. We bring the same tack box with us every year.
It's huge satisfaction in a way, and it's great excitement all the year, looking forward to all the foals every year.
I loved the summer and seeing foals and seeing lads and having a bit of a chat and a slagging match. It's a way of life.
And we wouldn't give up for anything. We'll probably phase it out a little bit, but we wouldn't give it up for. It's our livelihood.